Hey guys, SunDown here. This is going to be my chapter review to Nanatsu no Taizai of the 7 Deadly Sins 261, A Lost Cat. Now, not too much actually happened this chapter in comparison to other chapters we've had, like One Punch Man or the latest One Piece chapter. Whoa, but this chapter was heartbreaking nonetheless. Very heartbreaking chapter, very saddening chapter. Now, the chapter, speaking of heartbreaking, starts with Estarossa crushing Monspiet's heart, setting him on his countdown towards his death. Realizing this, Monspiet hits Derieri, launching her through the air away from himself and Estarossa. Now, I'm not sure whether she stops midair, just to freeze frame the moment, or whether that punch actually launches it all the way to where she lands at the end of the chapter, or whether the explosion from Monspiet, which is just about to come, launches her further. I think it was actually the explosion which pushes her further. Now, she stops midair, wanting to know what Monspiet wanted to tell her, but realizing that his future was going to be very short-lived, Monspiet chooses not to burden Derieri with his love. So, in his final moments, Monspiet engulfs himself and Estarossa with a huge hellblaze, holding Estarossa by the head, cooking him alive by the looks of things. And I think this final explosion of hellblaze catapults Derieri all the way to where she lands at the end of the chapter. Now, Estarossa unfortunately won't die from this. Well, actually not unfortunately, because Estarossa as a plot device is amazing. He's just speeding up the story and really creating that dimension of kind of he's another antagonist within all these within the two kind of, we can't really describe whether Stigma's good or evil, or even whether the demons are good or evil because of Meliodas' intentions, but Estarossa is the kind of wild card in all of this, so he's really adding a really cool dimension to this. But yeah, Estarossa won't die from this Hellblaze, but I'm hoping there is some sort of lasting damage, especially after Derieri's little bit of exposition last chapter on the power of Monspiet's Hellblaze, even among all the rest of the Demon Clan. The rest of the Demon Clan, they respect Monspiet, as his Hellblaze seems to be quite powerful among the most of them. But yeah, Estarossa will only be slowed down for a short while, I think, and he'll continue pursuing the commandments. I'm happy Monspiet actually had the clarity of mind in his dying moments to get Derieri out of there, but I'm saddened that he had to go like this, especially because I've always found him to be like one of the coolest looking guys in the whole of Taizai, and for him to go like this without confessing to Derieri, it just hurts right in the chest, you know? So we then go to Stigma, who celebrate as the demonic hordes kind of bust a retreat. A key point here is that the demons are retreating towards the capital, so Lyonesse, meaning they may well engage with Dreyfus and his squadron, the defense squad. Hauser takes up the mantle, or he was given the mantle of captain, and he's taking it up very well, leading his forces, commanding them, motivating them to rescue the people left, who the demons will no doubt go after and kill. So he even goes on to ensure safety, making sure that no skirmishes occur within towns or villages. He was very impressive for me this chapter, Hauser. We don't really see much of him, but what we did see this chapter, him in a commanding role, I really liked how he took his position as a leader, and he is doing what he's supposed to do. He's leading his team, and I really liked that, and it was a good dimension for Hauser. He instructs for the wounded to seek medical aid, only for Death Pierce to interrupt, saying that there's no need for that, son. And he turns around, he's like, who the hell is this guy? And surprisingly enough, he sees Death Pierce and a number of others who'd all received Ruduciel's breath of bless, and they've all healed and they look good as new. And he's just like, what the hell, bro? Last chapter, your hand was basically hanging off your forearm. What the hell's going on? So King notices that a different thing. He notices that all those who've been blessed by Ruduciel are acting remarkably like Ruduciel, i.e. they're acting like assholes. So Elizabeth chooses this as her time to shine. She jumps down from Hawk Mama and explains to those affected by Ruduciel's breath of bless that they shouldn't rely on it. They'll utilize its ability, and then they'll until they run dry and die, basically. So the ability allows them to fight to a power level that's kind of like, it releases their hidden potential, so they're able to fight to their maximum capabilities. But that's also because they've been numbed off and they can't feel pain, and they're just crazy essentially. So because of this lack of pain reception, they can get like limbs detached from them, and like the arms can get ripped off and things like that. They'll be bleeding to death, and it wouldn't really affect them. They wouldn't notice it because they're just fine. They're numb to the sensation of pain. So that's what Elizabeth is essentially telling them to not rely on. She's like, yeah, you've unlocked your hidden potential, but you can still die, so watch your asses, bruh. And this is actually why the magic is called cheat hope as well. This is something that Galtha refers to it as. So Sariel then chastises Death Pierce, explaining the efforts that Elizabeth went through during the battle. While they were fighting, she was talking to the hearts and souls of the demons, trying to persuade them that this fight was unnecessary. Now, much like Death Pierce, I actually thought, well, that's useless. She obviously didn't do a very good job of it. But what Sariel then continues to say is that dozens of demons did retreat, even though they were given orders by Cusack and Chandler, which are basically nigh on. They can't really ignore those orders. So it was a great feat really on the part of Elizabeth, and with her ability, they can really focus on avoiding unnecessary injury, death, and energy expenditure. So it's a really key thing. But the keyest thing, the big key thing she did was explained actually by Tarmiel, who notifies us that the Breath of Bless technique, or a magical ability, cannot heal wounds. And all the guys affected by Rudusiel's Breath of Bless, they're all healed up and stuff. So it turns out that during the fight, Elizabeth was also healing everyone, the whole army, on like max output. She was healing with max output, healing the entire army of their multiple grievous wounds. I mean, they were heavily injured, and they were bleeding to death. Their limbs were broken and stuff like that, and everything they'd sustained she'd healed. Now, rightly so, Sariel then informs them that half of them would in fact be dead if it wasn't for Elizabeth. So Elizabeth got her shout out this chapter. She reminds the crazy Breath of Bless slaves that they must remember who they want to return to, who wants them to remain unharmed, and who they fight for. And with this, we get a comic part where Hawk's kind of proud of Elizabeth and how far she's come, and he's like, I remember when she used to be this klutz, and then she falls flat on her face, and he's like, there she is. That was pretty funny. Now, the part of the chapter which had me confused was when Galtha speaks to himself, and he's talking of how impressive Elizabeth has become, and he mentions that even Mael, the strongest of the archangels, the mightiest of the archangels, praised Elizabeth. And I was like, the thing to note really here was, how the hell does Galtha know that? Galtha was a commandment, Mael was a goddess, and most definitely they didn't have time to converse with each other, sit down, have a drink, or be friendly with each other. So how does he know that Mael said anything like that? And the face he makes while he's saying that, Galtha, the face he makes while he's saying that Mael even thought that she was someone worthy of praise. He's really saddened and really depressed by some aspect of what he's saying, and I assume that aspect is Mael. So that really worries me. Did Galtha know Mael? Were they buddies? How were they buddies? Why were they buddies? And if not, how did he gain such information as to what Mael said or what Mael thought? Or is that some sort of common knowledge among the people, which I doubt? I don't know, but I think we're going to find out more about Galtha down the line. There's got to be something more, especially with that little thing he said. Now, with this, Galtha senses something flying in towards the army at high speed, and he tells everyone, shit, something's coming in. Hauser, obviously there, very captainly, responds very effectively, rallying his remaining forces into a defensive position once this high-speed thing hits the ground. And now, once the thing lands, they recognize the power signature. It's a commandment. So the chapter ends with the dust clearing, revealing a grief-stricken Derieri making her way towards Elizabeth. Now, in this situation, Elizabeth will obviously prevent anyone from harming Derieri. Sariel and Tarmiel are both content to let her lead. In fact, they both pay her a level of respect which is way beyond what Rudusiel gives her, making me think that Rudusiel is simply either jealous of Elizabeth or he just doesn't like her very much. It's one of those two things. Sariel and Tarmiel both seem to like Elizabeth quite a lot. They seem to like her very much, appreciating her abilities and her power and her status as, I think, the daughter of the supreme deity. Now, the other question here was, what will Derieri do? I think the answer is simple. She'll cry, tell Elizabeth exactly what's going down with Estarossa. Elizabeth may even relieve her of some of her negative emotions, like she did with Merlin, helping clear her mind. Derieri may decide to side with the Sins to gain vengeance from Mons Piet. This might be in kind of like in tandem with the Sins, like if you help me gain vengeance, I'll help you to stop Meliodas and Zeldris. She doesn't need to really hate them. She knows Estarossa is working for himself, so everything he's done she's not going to blame his brothers for. So she wouldn't really extend her hatred towards Zeldris or Meliodas. But once she achieves her goal, I think she may decide to help the Sins, or she may even decide to help them before she achieves her goals. Now, the next chapter is called The One Twisted by Darkness, and I think this refers to Estarossa, but it could also refer to Meliodas. Now, in terms of Estarossa, we should see exactly what type of damage he took, and really what I want to know is in regards to Mons Piet, can a commandment destroy his own commandment? Now, seeing as Mons Piet didn't even realize that a commandment could be extracted, I doubt he knows this. Can a commandment launch his commandment outside of his body upon death and like throw it somewhere wherever he wants it to go? Once again, I doubt that. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, can he get rid of his commandment in such a way that Estarossa wouldn't grab hold of it? Now, the reason for that is because there needs to be some further loss for Estarossa, even though he's beaten Mons Piet. Now, all of this seems unlikely, but like I said, there needs to be some sort of loss in this for Estarossa besides not capturing Derieri. Mons Piet can't die without some small victory. So I think there will be some form of permanent damage on Estarossa due to Mons Piet's Hellblaze, but he'll be alive and well enough to continue his mad journey. Now, the one twisted by darkness in the next chapter could also be referring to Meliodas, seeing as he's taken in 5 commandments. He could very well be twisted, but it could also be referring to Estarossa, who's going to take in, I think next chapter, he's going to take in Mons Piet's commandment, which we'll see, because we've already been told that what's his name, Estarossa couldn't hack his own commandment, and he's twisted by his darkness. But if he takes in Mons Piet's as well, he's going to become monstrous. So I really think that the next chapter is referring to Estarossa taking in and ingesting Mons Piet's commandment and really becoming more of this demonic entity and really losing his mind and losing any of the self-control he actually has, and he's going to become this disgusting beast. But that's hopefully what we'll find out next chapter. So let me know what you guys saw of this chapter. Like, comment, all that good stuff. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Missing out words. Let me know if you had anything that you liked about my review or anything that you disagree with, anything like that. And let me know if you have your own theories to put forward, just so I can read through them. And yeah, that's about it. I'll see you guys in a bit.